Sometimes I think that as journalists, we write the best bios for ourselves. So I'm sorry if we sounded really fancy. And thank you to all of you for staying with us. There's been a little back and forth, but we figured a change of scene was good. I'm really, really excited to have both Richa and Shweta with us because the other exciting part of being a journalist is you get to sort of go down a rabbit hole of research. And I kind of like researching fine spirits and diamonds. They seem to go together. And I wanted to actually, it then sort of hit me when I was doing the research that, you know, during the pandemic, people bought more diamonds and more fine spirits. I know that I certainly wore my diamonds while I had my fine spirits. But what was really interesting is it was a serious recession for everybody. But you guys did your best business then. I mean, better than the year before when everything was open and things were going well. Did you have strategy in place to be recession-proof? Or did you sort of just hit upon that sweet spot and things just went your way? Was it luck by chance? Or was it sort of deep strategy and, you know, marketing?
Thank you for having me here. You know, I don't think it's just luck or deep strategy, but I would like to believe it's a combination of both. We did put certain things in place almost 2-3 years ago, but it wasn't really planning for recession, more losing seasonality. We were trying to say that how it can be something that has, you know, it keeps in sync with what the consumer mindset is. The consumer wants to celebrate every day. All of these things that we had planned sort of got accentuated in the 2 years. So while there were tough times, I think they worked in our favor. We got a lot more digital exposure than we as an industry would have. Most people like to walk into a jewelry store, you know, the discovery wasn't happening. And while we were building our capabilities as an industry, I think it exploded during the 2 years. So I would say mix of both, but it is luxury for us, keeping in mind our industry is working towards you know, sustainability, doing good, slow fashion. So all of these where the consumer is moving, we are there. I would like to believe that we fit those boxes and tick the right marks already. So I think it just worked for us.
Hello everybody, and thanks for having us here, Nonita. It was absolutely not free falling for spirits as the core of our category is socialization, and we were not socializing the way we are used to. And in fact, it was very, very intense in India because we had one of the toughest lockdowns. And we were in a situation where about 45, 50 days, and I know anecdotally all of you will remember that we were calling all our friends and family to figure out that wonderful dram, if you know, hidden in one's corner of one's house. But we emerged hugely stronger, and I must say that 2-3 big ones, the boldest that we've ever been, actually came out of that time. And we said that we are human beings, and socialization will evolve according to what is the moving parts around us, and we emerged very, very strongly out of that because we shouldered the on-trade and the bar industry, and we said that we will bring on-trade-like experiences into people's homes, that those little celebrations, those little moments of joy, which are at the heart of spirits. And many of our brands actually pivoted to the whole rituals, the whole serves. We all became bartenders at home, and we actually started appreciating drinking better, if not more. And the second one was, which is a personal favorite of mine, is how we took that Indian insight that as Indians we were used to shopping for many of our favorite luxury spirits brands abroad or when we traveled abroad. And how we all sitting in Diageo India said that if we came out of the lockdown, if we came out of a post-pandemic consumer behavior, and what happens if Indians get used to interacting with our luxury spirits portfolio within India. And that's how I'm sure many of you have experienced your retail experience around spirits has completely transformed. Because we said that it's not just about just those hole-in-wall kind of places that we so relate to Indian spirits pieces. And I think the team worked on saying that how do we make retail experiences while socializing, the hubs of socializing, your neighborhood bars, your restaurants started coming to life. So big, bold provocations which come from things like pandemics require big, bold thinking for many categories.
Well, difficult measures always, difficult times call for difficult measures, right? But what I found really interesting, and it actually, you're saying that, earlier we used to stand in line in the most grotty spaces to buy a bottle of wine that you wanted to give someone. What you all did is you grabbed this time and you changed the narrative in the storytelling. And it always brings me to my favorite topic of content and content creation and how telling the story changes everything. You changed the entire storytelling to, being a bartender at home. Richa, you sort of fast forwarded into getting yourself a brand new audience. I want to know a little bit more about this whole shift in storytelling and what sort of drove it for you. How did you make it happen in the pandemic?
So I will share a couple of pieces of looking at the same thing differently. So when you said content, we are a regulated category. We never push the boundaries of saying that, we will go out in there and propose. What we took the reverse is we said that if people are finding so much joy in discovering and creating their own experiences around spirits, we took brand storytelling to the next level. We said that if it is about a memory structure, that a moment of celebration and a moment of spirits or an old-fashioned or a cocktail induces in you, how can we get you as a consumer to start sharing that with us? So a lot of that has led to normalization of conversations around our spirits. We are all sitting, and many of our brands, so we've just come out of saying that how Johnnie Walker, which is a 200-year-old legacy brand, actually has an active voice in culture. So we came out of the pandemic and we've just introduced this, one of the biggest community platforms, which is called Walkers & Co., where you can come and share your own stories of personal progress and of enjoying and pushing the boundaries over there. So many such innovations actually came out of, Nonita, as you said, that content, how do you talk about it? How do you look at storytelling from a very different angle rather than product out, but become more consumer in, is how we pivoted towards that.
Richa, and how did you handle storytelling? When we spoke earlier, you also mentioned that WhatsApp, incidentally, was one of the channels that you use for sales, and that seems very unlikely for natural diamonds.
So we are a very traditional, old school industry, and I think that's been our strength. The trust, the walking into the store, the relationship is what has gotten our industry going. I think we came in as a body to say we are brand agnostic. How can we change and be ready for the consumer? We have no constraints on talking about it, but we tried to show it from a different light. We produced about 620 pieces of content. The first thing we realized is no one size fits all. While we love our shadis, and just now she spoke about saying Delhi big is big, but the fact is that it's their choice. So we are not here to judge and say this is right or wrong or big or small. Hey, if I could afford a 6-carat, I would be wearing it, right? So that's what we tried to do. So we tried to tell stories across the board. We realized that triggers are different. We realized that there is no one trigger, but combination of triggers, and I think this holds true for most people. So we spoke history. Diamonds started in our world, yet you go to the consumer and she says, "Ye naye zamane ke logon ke liye, mere liye nahi hai." So, but the fact is that we were the first mine in the world. Golconda was the first one, nobody knows about it. The fact that our Maharajas have the most iconic pieces, and they were the ones, whose briefs led to the most iconic pieces in the maisons, and it's all India triggered and it's not been shared. So I think we from the industry take a lot for granted. De Beers did a great job talking about 4 Cs, but is there more to it? The consumer today is asking beyond it, so we used a stepping stone that they had set for us and said, what next? And what does it mean to the consumer today? You speak to a 22-year-old, she really is not thinking of a wedding. She wants to know how she can enjoy life. And our one-line brief was, take out the diamonds from your lockers and enjoy them. Buy only what you can wear and enjoy today. So there's nothing in the pandemic, in that sense, worked for us. We see women doing Pilates and their juicy couture, wearing solitaires, and hey, power to you, meaning, you have it, you wear it, it's for you. A lot of women wore it as a memory. My mother gave it to me when this happened, and it was, you couldn't meet your mom, and this was a little piece of love that you felt. It was a hug that you got. For us, the diamonds are setting and saying, this is the, you as a woman, you walk into a conference room and we used to say, this is the power jacket moment. And then you had the red lips moment, and this is the solitaire moment, according to us. You walk in, you feel that sense of power as a woman. And we see the evolution. I'm not waiting for my husband, my boyfriend, my mother to buy it. Hey, I deserve it. I earned it. I need to treat myself. So we've covered the spectrum. I have mums we talk to who are buying for their young girls still, and I have 22-year-old girls who want to buy for themselves and enjoy it. And we have, husbands who are still asking what I should buy for my wife and should I buy, but she will not like it. And, can you explain it to me? So we do dummies guide for men, and we do styling guide for women, and we cover it all.
I think we share that, Richa, because we saw a redefinition of occasions, right? Which is true for both of us, because what you kept, so you kept your precious singleton at the back bar, but you wanted to make the most out of it. And I think the other big common theme that I see is normalization in Indian context that we also experience. That so you wouldn't find so many women actually explicitly calling it out that they enjoy their blue label as much as the gent sitting in the room. And I think that was a big redefinition of occasion. And also I think there's an evolution of status that we've seen, and that is irrespective of the pandemic. I think Indians are embracing their own choice making. So in a way that we've never seen before. And this whole thing of making an occasion, which might be a normal, everyday occasion, much, much more better. And I heard some the previous speakers talking about how we want to set up our tables in a certain way. We do want to step out and not just wait to be 40 to might have bought as a limited edition and wait for something like your own age to happen over there. I think we've started really getting everyday luxury reality, which used to happen very, very sparsely in culturally. And I think that it's around that for many, many years.
Well, what I find really fascinating is the singleton 18 drinking woman and the juicy couture wearing girl wearing her diamonds to Pilates has also become the expert. Now, both of your fields are fields that are driven by experts. When you wanted to buy diamonds, you went to a jeweler who explained the 4 C's, maybe patronized you a little bit, upsold. You went to get whiskey. There was always the ambassador, the distiller, who told you, this is what you buy, this is how you drink it, this is a lot of how you don't do things. But you've turned the customer into the expert. They now share their experiences and tell you how they engaged with the product and how they wear it, use it, consume it. And that's been a really interesting shift where, I think Dr. Maharaj used the term prosumer, where the person actually develops the product. In a sense, you sort of made it democratic. How did this happen? Because you would imagine these fields just were very tightly controlled by the experts.
I think the consumer has become a lot more aware and confident of and is also very confident about owning her mistakes or his mistakes. So, I can afford to go differently just because I want to. It's not every decision is a combination of thought and gut, at least in our industry now. We are moving to, it's not to say, hey, I still make money on weddings, I just want to be clear. But the consumer is moving towards this direction where conventional wisdom says you will wear a round brilliant. And, when I went in, and there is no young girl who wants to wear round. She wants an emerald cut, or she wants pear, or because it's her identity and it's something unique about her. And I think that's what most young designers are bringing to the table. So what is also true is you don't believe in one voice. I have the option. I follow J-Lo and celebrate her 50th birthday as much. That's what I'm dreaming of. And, you follow Deepika Padukone with the same amount of love or passion, or you want to mimic them both. So we are trying to straddle multiple experts. So we do look at functional expertise. We do Google it up. We do speak to our family jeweler. But the decision is taken. I don't know what sequence they all come in, but it's not like we've forgotten the experts. We just not giving them that pedestal that they probably had earlier. So we are taking a combination of experts. We still do want to see the certification that comes with our diamond. We still want to ask our mama what works, what doesn't, and who I should go to, and go to a family jeweler and stuff. But we still, there's a lot coming from Instagram and a lot coming from my friends and who I'm looking up to. So it's a combination.
So I think expertise pretty much stays, but what I personally feel very excited about as a consumer and as a person who runs a wide portfolio is this whole appetite, accentuation of appetite for exploration. We've all wanting to know what's behind it. So it's, I said earlier that it's not just about brand out. It is what I make out of that brand and the way and the context in which I experience it or I discover it. Then I want to uncover another layer. And that happens very, very predominantly in our category. You may hear about a gin with a provenance from a place, then you want to know that why is it different from a London dry, what style of spirit making is it getting to, what kind of cocktails can I, explore and expand my, so repertoire expansion is the most exciting piece when it comes to luxury exploration. Both the explorers, the recent new entrants to luxury, because they're finding discovery much more incentivized over there. And then there is discernment. So I may have a very, very evolved palate, but which I believe you discovered yesterday. A very, very evolved palate.
I was just thinking, every sip of whiskey makes us smarter, doesn't it? Wiser.
So I think it's very, very exciting times for on both ends of the consumer spectrum, where your appetite for exploration and some of the more experienced consumer sets, how they are expanding their horizontal range when it comes to what are the brands that they want to know more about and add to their repertoire.
Shweta, you've also been talking to brands that are, you've also been talking to consumers that are consuming luxury in a mindful, more meaningful way. And how are you strengthening the narrative by competing on purpose? Whether it is investing in a homegrown brand like Godawan, with named after a almost endangered species, and also talking to that consumer who's discerning.
You've tempted me to call out the advantage of working in Diageo. Absolutely, we founded Godawan as an extension of many other purposeful brands that we have in our international portfolio. And I think the vision of having a very global native brand coming out of India, celebrating provenance and giving it back. So I think a lot of value in luxury is also about how you as a consumer give back. And Godawan is our Indian single malt, for those of you who don't know, which celebrates the provenance of Rajasthan. And it is celebrating the bird, which is going very, very fast extinct. I mean, and the brand is inspired from there. The liquid is completely aged in 100 degrees of Rajasthan, which is very, very different from what you would associate with a single malt, that, Scotland-like weather. So I think absolutely sustainability is at the heart of a lot of our spirits brand. As I said, many of them are 200 years old. A simple whiskey aging process is a very, very big act in sustaining tradition and yet redefining it. So we are seeing a lot of consumer interest in knowing, as I said, into what goes into what they're consuming. And that's where a lot of what we are doing on our India out luxury brands is kind of getting there.
And Richa, speaking of provenance and traceability, diamonds is an important conversation as well in this space. And how are you treating it?
The journey for the consumer is different across the globe. So I will say that the Indian consumer is just starting. I don't think that it's a trigger for purchase, but it's a feel-good moment. So they do check. There's a lot of work being done by some of our members. But there is past baggage, history, what has happened, the stories. I think Bollywood and Hollywood tend to glamorize stories as well. But we have traceability. Every piece that comes to you, brands showcase that they can be. But the consumer is very happy to know whether I have a Canadian diamond or, diamond from Botswana. But the Indian consumer isn't there yet. So I don't want to pretend here and say, hey, the consumer walks into the store and say, I want a Canadian diamond. Whereas in the US, there are some questions or there is curiosity. So we tend to want diamonds which are ethically sourced. They're trying to read it up and they're asking us questions. We are seeing a starting of conversation in our engagement on social media, on our website. So again, it's a feel good. It's an expectation from the industry. I think the new age consumer wants to know this is happening. And then the mother comes and says, rate kya hai? So it all balances out. But the trigger is still design. The trigger is still the badge value that probably I see the De Beers team here, and that's why I'm saying the De Beers name brings to the table, or any maison or the brand, whether it's a Malabar or a Tanishq or so there is a lot of triggers beyond sustainability or the provenance, but we are working on the journey. We are also reminding the consumer it's the oldest piece of history that you actually hold in your hand, and it's one of a kind. Most consumers don't know that, and most consumers don't know where they come from. When we say, where do you get it? They almost seem like you were walking in Africa and you can pick up a couple and bring them back in your pocket. So majority of the luxury consumer says that. So we are trying to, but dumb it down, simplify it, make it GIFs, and say where they come from. It's not that simple a process. But the fact that they're older than dinosaurs is something so simple, but I didn't know till I joined, and I started reading up on the world that I'm coming in. Or, the pieces that anything you get or buy today is going to stay back for hundreds of years after you're gone, that you're going to leave behind a piece of history and that's something that we are trying to build on.
I'm going to actually fast forward into the future, because this entire conversation has been sort of the future of technology and all of this. Do you think that, and you talk about this generation being less interested, but do you think that you're going to use technology, the metaverse, maybe to drive some key agendas, whether it's sustainability or it's knowledge or it's transparency or innovation, personalization? Wow, I've asked you like 5 key things, and I'm expecting you to answer it very, very sort of sharply and smartly.
I'll take that up on a 2-second answer. Personalization is the buzzword when it comes to what we think our mainstream categories. Weddings are an occasion which you and I can talk hours about. And the kind of bespoke expectation that the whole family, and I think I relate to your saying that the dad comes here and says that what is this thing. But I think the briefs that many of our teams are servicing to, can we get a cask which can fly out? Can we get a bottle which is only that much, the number of guests that are happening? It's phenomenal, the scope of personalization, and of course the role back-end technology plays in immersing yourself into how these wonderful brands and products come into being, which are, as you said, sometimes older than possibly our ages combined, put together. So yeah, that's very much reality.
So for us, the Indian industry is way behind. We have seen baby steps in metaverse, but I think they're really nascent steps. Globally, you see some maisons doing beautiful work, starting again. It's been more towards design and the journey. We have our partners who are talking about where the diamond comes from, how long it's been, where the journey that it's taken, and we are ready to share that with the world, and it's moving towards that direction. So we as an industry are working towards the journey, but I must say that the brands have picked up design, and now the designer also matters a lot. So his or her journey and the inspiration that comes behind it. And I'm going to add, while we are stepping into this, you'd asked me about WhatsApp. I'm sorry, I forgot. The Indian world has leveraged, or the amount of dhanda we've done on WhatsApp, I don't think we can beat it. Every jeweler has done business on WhatsApp. You've chosen pieces, the collections, the way I think that they are the stars in terms of how they could maximize. So not everybody could set up a website, not everybody was could afford to, or technically be ready to, and we've maximized. So while there's a metaverse, we have a Indian Jugaduverse that has worked a lot for us.
So I guess what it says is that technology continues to decentralize. Whether you're using WhatsApp or you're leaping into the metaverse, we all have our own versions, and that's the most wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. This was a wonderful conversation.
Thank you, Richa and Shweta. Thanks.